give the opportunity to everyone in attendance in case you would want to raise any specific question, further clarification, any point of contribution. The reason why we have asked the speakers to cut on their slide was to actually have a moment of interaction. So please feel free. I will take a round and then please just direct your question or put it open to everyone.
Yes. So, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Anuranjan from the Natural Heritage C2C, and I had a question for Mr. Faraj. Thank you for that wonderful presentation. There was a lot of information. Since the ocean is a critical component of the pearling history, I just wanted to find out if anything in particular was done to protect those areas where the oyster beds are, and if they're already like national parks or something like that, or was there anything done? Because we all know that the ocean is the first thing being affected these days with climate change and pollution, right?
Certainly. Thank you for the question. Yes, the surveys that were conducted initially at 2009, when we began the nomination process, have been followed up with on a annual basis. We have protection for the 3 different pearling beds. We're currently actually in the process of reviewing because there are some potential plans. As you can imagine, there's a lot of terraforming that happens in the Gulf, and our territorial waters are quite extensive. So we have regular monitoring by environmental agencies. We hire our own divers. The process of pearl diving is still a living process. The Ministry of Industry actually regulates this. Along with the environmental agency, we issue licenses for pearl divers. And there is regular monitoring that goes on for that, as well as buffer zones that are regularly patrolled and monitored. Now, we do not have a very extensive 24/7. I was speaking to the honorable delegates from Palau who have very extensive, I think she had something like 100 park rangers or marine rangers that were, on 8-hour shifts, 24-hour monitoring of the sites. We do not have that level, but we do take it very, very seriously and are very keen on preserving any encroachment. This also works in line with a number of other marine policies. So, for example, overfishing. So you have certain seasons for prawn fishing. You have certain seasons for different types of fishing. So we do take our marine conservation very, very seriously.
Thank you. I saw a hand somewhere. Yes, it was Kwezi first and then Hosea.
Congratulations and thank you, colleagues, for wonderful presentation. My name is Kwezi. I work on the Nelson Mandela nomination. So I'm very interested to know how, in the view of the colleagues, controversial topics and themes should be dealt with in the interpretation work. And one of the issues that attracted my attention was the multi-vocality, Prof, that you raised. And I know you are a regular in our country, and the multi-vocality gets used in very interesting ways. I would like to hear some suggestions. It doesn't matter that we have views on the matter.
Thank you so much for that particular question. In fact, that is the purpose of a framework. Once you have a framework, you set the limits, you set the context in which different interpretations can be done. So that is the reason why actually a framework is very important, and that's why the interpretation concept itself also is very important. It then sets in motion to allow for multivocality. And the ways in which you articulate these in your presentation plan then gets defined by the plan. So this is why actually we are emphasizing that we need actually this plan. I've given the example of Great Zimbabwe, where you have seen the extremes. I mean, like at one point, it's focusing on a particular idea for different reasons. Then at one point, you see again another hegemonic view of things. And so when you have got a framework, you are in a position to actually determine the comprehensiveness of the interpretation, and the multiple voices then are given room within the interpretation. So that's my view. I don't know whether other colleagues would like to add.
Yes, Irene, please.
Yes. Sorry. That is one of the very important issue for WIPIC as well. We also have a research on dissonant heritage, how to interpret the dissonant heritages and also sites of memories. To quote Laura Jane Smith, there was an authorized heritage discourse back in the past, and that was a dominant narrative of the heritage. But now we try to discover many other voices and many other thoughts around the heritage. So in our research as well, we do encourage you try to listen many other perspectives and reflect it to the interpretation heritage. Thank you.
Perhaps
I was just going to add to my esteemed colleagues. Even in our consultative process, for something as what seems very general, there was a very hierarchical structure within the pearling economy. And there were undoubtedly, let's say, the humble pearl divers at the bottom of that pyramid, as opposed to the merchants at the very top of it, and let's say, the disadvantageous kind of economic structures that were put into place. It was through that interpretation, through that consultative process, that we were able to kind of bring a lot of these to the fore, and kind of within that discourse, within that dialogue, kind of diffuse perhaps some of the tension that came out of it.
Thank you. Perhaps on this point, if I would be a little bit of a devil's advocate, I guess that one of the contentious issues in the debate on the so-called sites associated with memories of recent conflict, which led to a great debate and a specific decision, was actually how to then regulate. And it's interesting for, at least for our region, and one of the reasons why we collaborate is because it's an issue that cuts across on the dichotomy between the, let's say, the nervousness around the different versions and different interpretations on one side, and the value of sites for the society, despite what different people might agree. But it's one of the very complex areas, and we hope that through this collaboration will also pave the way to some sort of like pathways of a better understanding and position. I had Hosea.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Hosea Wanderi, and I'm from Kenya. And I must commend the three presenters of the case studies. They are very interesting. My question is about the communities' involvement in the interpretation, and realize that sometimes we have people who first occupied some of these heritage places. So my issue is, which story do we listen to? For example, for the case of the Great Zimbabwe, much of what we have is the published literature, but you tend to find that the myths, the legends of those people who used to stay there before the archaeological works were done might kind of being suppressed. And you can get that from the presentation of the gentleman from Namibia. You even find that the original name of Tweefontein was something before 1951, but now it has been adopted in place of the original name. So that's my challenge. When do we listen to these local communities? When do we respect their views and their interpretation and the ownership and the identity of some of these heritage places? And then to the gentleman from the Arab world, sorry, I forgot your name. My concern is, how far do we go in interpreting? Because in your presentation about the pearling, in which country, is it Bahrain or, yeah. I saw you with a slide where we have images of medicinal plant, which the guys who are involved in pearling would treat themselves. So how far do we go, and what are the limits of these interpretations? Thank you.
Thank you, Hosea. I will take my friend from Sudan there to, before I can...
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm delighted, very happy. Let me start with a French proverb which says, a dog that belongs to everyone will die of hunger. This simply means that as long as there's a world body known as UNESCO with this convention of 1972, then the heritage world is safe. I don't have any question. Mine, I begin to think of heritage interpretation and the concept of having the site and the challenges. With the three presentation, I'm delighted. My third party, South Sudan, was recently ratified the Free Convention, 1972, 2005, 2003 Convention in 2016. But still yet we are learning. And our case sample will be like that kind of Kasubi tomb, because most of African heritage, African technology is a simple technology where you begin to compare the building, the structure building, where you involve the thatch in a simple manner, and also the building heritage. So these are the kind of experience which we want to share. And I was delighted to see the reflective of three samples from Arab world, from Africa, and from the rest of the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your contribution. So I will afford you 1 minute each. I think from Zimbabwe and Namibia, the question is straight from Hosea on communities and the versions of interpretation. And Rashad, you got your question direct from Hosea on that. And I would like to ask, before, just to conclude, to have your comments on that.
When do we listen to the narratives of the community? Always. In fact, this is what we are trying to correct, because they have been marginalized. Their stories have not been heard. And remember, we are interpreting this story on their behalf. And so those stories must be captured. Now, if we continue with the official narratives, if we continue with the unitary narratives, it means that we are not giving the broad spectrum of our audiences, the broad spectrum of our visitors to our sites, to experience the sites. Remember, interpretation varies from one individual to the other. We have to allow for that. It's like that our communication of the outstanding universal values of our world-rich sites can be better understood. So my straight question is always, we have to give the space for our communities to express themselves, to be part of the interpretation, to actually communicate as well about the sites. Thank you.
Thank you. Alphys?
Afternoon. You never play all your cards, so basically I'll refer the question to my colleague sitting over there. So you never play all your cards in the beginning, so I had my secret weapon there, and she'll answer the question.
Okay, maybe Rashad, you can go before others. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. I didn't expect it, but the local name was not suppressed to say, but the one that replaced it became more prominent because I think you'll know very well that Namibia was colonized by South Africa, and the same legislation that was used in South Africa then became used in Namibia. So when they actually gazetted, when they declared the site as a heritage site and gazetted the site, they took advantage of the Tweefontein name instead of the local name. However, to date, both names are actually used on all official documents, including the nomination dossier. So yeah, we are using both names. Thank you.
Thank you, Agnes, to coming to rescue of Alphys on this. Rashad.
Yes, I think it's clear to say that from all of our experiences here, interpretation is an ongoing process. It's a living process, and it's how it is that the communities interact and relate to the sites. So the example that I had given, or the picture that was there with regards to the plants that are being used, as long as there's an interest, as long as people are engaging, as long as they want to explore that history and that heritage, then we want to encourage that. We want to develop that further. And in reality, all we're doing is facilitating people's own research and development and interest by providing them with an avenue or an outlet for it. At the end of the day, we're preserving this culture, this heritage, this sense of identity, if you will, for future generations. And it's for those people who are interacting with these sites to identify themselves and to interact through this process of interpretation to identify how the site will continue to be seen and perceived in the future.
Thank you so much. I'm afraid we will have to close, but perhaps the good news is you're welcome to join us in the 47th session, where we will have another side event to continue the conversation. I would like to sincerely thank you all for honoring us with your presence and stimulating debate. We are sincerely grateful to our partners and support that we have received. And we look forward to really continue the discussion as we move forward with our collaborative project. I'll just ask my dear partner Harry for the closing of the meeting.
Thank you, everyone. So I think this concludes the side event seminar today. The understanding of heritage interpretation strategy and its case studies. So we extend our heartfelt thanks to everyone who participated here and hope to see you next year as well. So thank you very much.